welcome to episode 31 of West End Talks. I forgot my name there. So let's talk very quickly about the elephant in the room. Yes, I've had a haircut. You don't have to comment on that, but I'm looking good now, thankfully. But today we're going to a just small talent show in the country. I think some of you might have heard of it. It's called Britain's Got Talent. Because today, we've got Steve Hewlett. Now you'll know him as the ventriloquist who finished 4th in the Series 7 of Britain's Got Talent way back in 2013. I can't believe it's been 7 years since he was on the show. But let's find out more about him, and as we welcome Steve.
Now.
Hi. There we go.
One thing you'll find out is I'm not great at technology. That's why that took so long to come on. I mean, it should have been. Please welcome Steve Hewlett. Bang! But it was
Bang.
Like, and then I kind of crawled across, and here I am. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Right.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. That's the only bit of technology you have to do. Don't worry. The rest of it's just talking.
Good. Downhill from now on. Let's go.
I'm sure that's not the case. But thank you for joining us.
No worries.
I'm sure in the next few while it'll be good to get to know you in the next small while, so that'll be good. Lots of questions from fans of yours and fans of the show that you were on. 7 years ago. Does it feel like 7 years?
It feels like I've never done it at all, to be honest, because it's, it was one of the biggest things that I've done, but and great memories from that show, and I love that I did it. I never wanted to do it. Actually, for the first 7 years of those seasons, the producers called me every year to do it, and I never really wanted to put myself forward in front of those judges because I've been a professional act for 18 years when I went on the show, and I was building up quite a good reputation, and I didn't want to throw that away because if you get one buzz or one dislike from one of the judges, there's this small chance that you could lose work from it. So I took a huge risk actually going on it, but yeah, I can't believe it's 7 years ago. It's flown by.
Didn't feel? I remember it. I can remember that series clear as well. I remember Simon, small Simon, and Arthur,
Mini
obviously.
Simon. He's the same size as the real one, but yeah.
And the Sunita with the Leafs. So we'll get more into that shortly. But what we like to do in these episodes to start with is go back to the very beginning and ask you what got you into performing and vent.
Well, I had the first 12 years as a normal kid. I wasn't into any show business. I just loved watching comedy. The comedy that we had on TV at the time, and growing up as a kid, we always loved variety, really. And so comedians, I loved that. But I got into age 12, and then it was November 1987. There was a TV talent show that wasn't Britain's Got Talent. It was called New Faces back then. There was a ventriloquist that was on called Jimmy Tamley. And that night, he won the grand final, and he lived 5 minutes from my house. So the next day, I was off to school. I knocked on his door before I went to school, which I've learned since then. You don't knock on entertainers' door at 7:45 in the morning, because people would do it to me now. And so I did do that anyway. And I done it every day for the next couple of weeks because I kept going back for autographs. And then I asked him if he would teach me. I said, I was just fascinated with the ventriloquist act, with this one man that got big laughs. He was puppeteering. He was not moving his lips. And I really wanted to know what that was about and how he did it. So I asked him myself. And so within a couple of weeks, we were in touch. And he said, if you really want lessons, there's a book just come out by Ray Allen. And Ray Allen, the master ventriloquist, he had a book called Got a Gear that came out as well at that same time. And then my sister came home from school with a ventriloquist dummy. This all synchronized within the same month. So I got this ventriloquist dummy, and I named it after Jimmy, my teacher, because he was there by then teaching me. So not only did I have a book, I had a teacher, I had a dummy, and my career had started. So it all started in '87, being inspired by another ventriloquist, which is how many ventriloquists start, actually. A lot of them, even you think of Jeff Dunham on the internet. Jeff was inspired by ventriloquists, that were before him. So even now I'm teaching younger ventriloquists or passing advice to a younger generation. It's kind of a full circle, Yeah,
no, that's great. So what was your first professional puppet? You mentioned you had Jimmy, but what was your first professional that you did work with?
Yeah, well, my dad took me to Hamleys in London to buy another puppet, which was a little Pelham puppet, and it was £42 it was, and it had no hands, but you could put your hand through it. So you work the mouth with that, a little wooden mouth, and then you work it and put your hand. So this little puppet, boy puppet, had a giant hand. It looked a bit weird, right? So it would have now. My hands are bigger. But I saved up then. I found out there was this guy called Jeff Felix. We're still great friends today. But Jeff made these ventriloquist dummies made out of wood, you know. And I'm going to show you one, actually. This isn't the actual one, but this is a Jeff Felix dummy. And he makes these wooden little figures that people are kind of scared of these days. You see them in all the horror movies. And I saved up. It cost me £350. My parents obviously really paid for it, because at the time I only had a paper round. I was earning £7 a week, and so it was a little fella like this, you know. I started with that. Hello, is that Graham? Yeah. Hello, Graham. How are you?
Hello.
Nice to see you. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you all right? Yeah, you okay? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. I didn't in lockdown. I didn't stuck in a suitcase in lockdown.
Oh, faff. We've been stuck in the house. At least that's bigger than a suitcase.
Yeah, thank you. He's funny, isn't he? Graham? Yeah, he's talking to a dummy. There you go. Well, that's you put him down. So that's the kind of figure that I started with. But I thought, okay, he needs a job, because Jimmy Townley taught me so much. He said, well, if you get a character, do a little brainstorm, write down their personality, what they like doing, what music they listen to, and then it helps you build the basis of a ventriloquist act. So I called the dummy Kenny. He was called Kenny the Railway Man. And I wrote loads of jokes about him working for British Rail. It's all about being late. It's all them typical jokes you would write about, you know. So that was my first professional dummy. And then I went on to do my first cabaret with Kenny. And and then I started to do loads of talent competitions using that same dummy.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So when did Arthur come along then?
Well, many years later, actually. So Kenny, I probably had for about 8 years, and then I got to age 22 when I turned professional. So when I was professional, I had a skunk puppet called Pongo. Now, Pongo is one of my main characters today, but Pongo belonged to Keith Harris, Keith in Orville, you know, and so Keith was, oh, there you go. There's Pongo down there. You can see his eye. You just poked his eye out.
Yeah.
Pongo is one of my main characters. So Keith Harris gave him to me when I worked at Blackpool Tower. And I remember Blackpool Tower in 1995 because there was 2 weeks where everyone from Scotland comes down and you entertain everyone from Scotland. You might have been about 4 when I did it, but you weren't.
Yeah, it would have been, yes, exactly 4, 1995.
Oh, that was a good guess. Yeah. So that was, I was 20 when I did that season. But I met up with Keith Harris, and he said, because he had Orville and Cuddles, he said, I've got a character that I don't use anymore. And he had used it on TV. It was Pongo the Skunk. And he said, do you want to come and have a look at it? So I went and had a look. I had a little work on it. And he said, you look great with it. Take it away. And if you want to keep it in the act. And he's still in the act today. So that was Pongo. And then Pongo had been a character. So that Simon Cowell character behind you, that used to be a different character. So in America, I had a guy called Butchmaid, and he had a suit on, but you pulled the suit off, and he had muscles and like swimming trunks underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So he was called Butch, but he was out of work for about 10 years. So I'm just trying to think the exact. So it was about 2005. I dropped Butch, that Simon Cowell character. I dropped him from the act. He'd been in the act for about 8 years on cruise ships and cabaret and holiday parks. But I dropped him because I had a manager that said you should get an old man puppet. Now, all ventriloquists usually have an old man, a monkey, a baby, and they do that mask routine, you know, which is like this. You'd see a lot of
that one, yeah.
And so everyone was doing a similar material, props, you know. So I'd never had an old man character. I just had the cheeky boy. But I did get the old man character, and I put him in a show I was doing in Turkey in a hotel. and I took Butch out of the show and put Arthur Lager in. So this was 15 years ago, and he went down a storm. So in that hotel, I thought, well, I can't put Butch back in. So I had him killed off at a Butlins gig later on that year, actually. I had him assassinated, like with a gunshot soundtrack and everything. It's brilliant. And I threw him across the stage because I felt like I can't just drop the dummy. So I had him assassinated. So
As you do.
only for my own humour and sanity. So that dummy that was Butch, he was sat in the corner of our room in my props room for about I don't know. I'm always talking years, but he was sat there for a while. And then in 2013, I got the phone call to do BGT. I went down to London to do the BGT, and then the Simon Cowell character was Butch, but I had to send him away to a puppet maker, and he redesigned it to look just like Simon Cowell. So he put that fake sunburn on him, the glasses, he put a brand new wig, and the dummy was kind of worn out, but he put a suit on him. It just looked like a brand new dummy.
And it looks so like Simon, like.
It does, which was the impact of when he came out on that night. Yeah, it really worked. So yeah, but I mean, my main character is Arthur Lager.
That's him up there, isn't it?
Yeah, when it works, it works, and you can tell by the audience's reaction what's going to stay in your act, And I was told to put an old man in the act. He came in, and I can't get rid of him because everybody wants to keep seeing Arthur Lager. He's there he is. This is the new version. So Arthur Lager after BGT, he had a lot of facial work done, like celebrities do. It goes to their head.
I'm about to say, yeah, it goes to the head.
They have the nose and the lips done. Arthur had the whole face done, whole body transfer, So that one behind you, yeah, you do. I've not had it done, as clearly. So they've got all these other characters as well. I mean, Simon Cowell was just designed for Britain's Got Talent, and Sunita, she's back in the garage now. She only came out from that show, and then I done a tour in 2014 called Thinking Inside the Box, and I brought Sunita out and done a bit of topical material with her, but only for a couple of minutes. Yeah, out of the scenario of Britain's Got Talent, those two characters don't really work, And I'm not an impressionist, so I'm not great at different voices or celebrity voices, but I'm just a ventriloquist that likes to do comedy. But for that show, I actually wrote Simon and Sunita in, especially. And I think when you do a big show like that, you have to be ready to come out with something new. So,
no, definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No, you've got loads of different puppets to your hands, or whatever the saying is. But now we'll move on.
That's
we'll hold
no.
It is now, yeah, it is now. We'll hold no responsibility for the next set of questions. They all come from either your fans or fans of BGT.
Or my mum, probably.
I don't know who they are, so it might be your mum. So the first question comes from Rebecca, and she says, "Who were your heroes and / inspirations growing up?"
I always loved comedy, so I loved watching comedians like Billy Connolly. I went to see Billy Connolly. He was the first stand-up I went to see in London, actually. Incredible comedy. And then Lee Evans, when I was a teenager, Lee Evans was a really big name on the comedy circuit, So, yeah, people like just the great stand-ups like that, Billy Connolly, Lee Evans. But in the ventriloquist world, it was Harris, Jimmy Townley, who I mentioned before. But there was an American called Ron Lucas, who he was the first ventriloquist to use this mask routine. He saw a comedian doing something and said, "Can I transfer this into a ventriloquist routine?" So Ron Lucas was the instigator, really, for the ventriloquist world of the mask, and now it's gone all over the world. So ventriloquists do it. They used to do it. They won't be able to put masks on people now because they're already wearing masks.
Yeah.
Because of this crazy thing.
What you could do is get a face mask with the voice on it.
So my inspirations in the ventriloquist world is Jimmy Townley, who first taught me, then Keith Harris, who was on TV all the time back in the 80s and the early 90s. I'd done my first TV show with Keith, and I was 16 years old. And he stood behind the camera when I filmed my piece, and then he gave me some great advice, So it was really nice to work with one of my heroes. And then Ron Lucas, an American ventriloquist that came over to the UK. He'd done 40 series for in the UK, and I went to the studio and he asked me to do it. So I'd done the alphabet in front of Ron Lucas's studio audience. As I did ABCDEFFGHIJKKLMNOP, see ya. So I did the alphabet in front of his audience. It's a massive round of applause. And I was 14 when that happened. So so this is Ron Lucas, and he's a great vent. You should look him up on the internet. He had a dragon called Scorch, Buffalo Billy, and I saw him out in Las Vegas actually when I got married. So he was working in Vegas, and then I brought Ron Lucas over to the UK in 2016, and we done a show called Double Talk. So I supported my hero. So all those three guys that were my hero ventriloquists, I've instigated a show with all three of them, and we've all worked together, and we've all been friends over the years, you know, which is really nice to have to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you've got some big names in the Vent Act, and I mean like public names as well, because like I'm part of the Magic Society, so I know a lot of Vent Acts that, that the public might not necessarily know, but there's like Terry Fator, there's Jeff Dunham, there's big names, and obviously you're one of them in the British scene because of a programme like Britain's Got Talent. You've obviously got yourself, Paul Zerdin as well. There's another name that's out there. So you've got some big names.
Paul Zerdin, Nina Conti. There's
Nina Conti in
the UK, but you're in America. When I'm writing a book on ventriloquists, it's called Ventriloquist, and it's my quest for ventriloquists. And so I've interviewed ventriloquists all over the world, and I've probably done about 30 to 40 interviews. And so I've discovered ventriloquists I never knew existed. You've got one in Kuwait, 2 or 3 in India, and there was a ventriloquist in Iceland, you know, about 60 years ago. So it's amazing that even I, as a ventriloquist over 30 years, have just discovered, because I'm researching this book, discovered ventriloquists that I never knew were there. And I've got to know, my book is about the ventriloquists behind the dummy. So I'm getting to know what they were like as people, and talking about their success. And it's just been a brilliant process, because I love my art, the art of ventriloquism. Wow. People say it's a dying art. It's not really. You talked about Jeff Dunham and Terry Fator. They've earned over $100 million each, you know, that they've worked for that. They deserve that. It's just that when I went on Britain's Got Talent, I think I entered in the wrong country. Did you know 3 ventriloquists have won America's Got Talent? Yeah. So I should have gone over there instead.
Yeah.
Paul Zerdin went to America. Yeah. And
you went to America twice, didn't you? You did it twice. He did it. Did he not audition one year and didn't get through, and then the next year he come back and won it, I think? Or could I be wrong? I think somebody different.
I didn't know that, but I know that he went and he done it and won it. Yeah. But Darcy Lynn, a young female ventriloquist, is phenomenal. And she's like a young Terry Fator in a way. She sings through a lot of things.
She sings? That must be harder to do, is it not, than just talking?
Well, when you're belting out the song, you know, sadly I can't sing, otherwise I'd be the multimillionaire over here. But if you sing, you can do impressions as well. That's the dynamics that Terry Fator's got in his act. It just expands the talent and the content of the show, you know. I do put singing in the show. Arthur Lager sings now and again. So it's just not as well as the others. But I've interviewed Darcy Lynn and Terry Fator for the book. They're all in the book. Nina Conti, Paul Zerdin, they're all in the book. Ron Lucas wrote the foreword. So the guy that inspired me, you know, from the beginning, is actually written the first part of my book, which is incredible. Yeah, so I'm very much for respecting the ventriloquists before me. Respect your elders, they say. And I do. I respect them. I love what they did. They gave me the passion to do what I do, and hopefully I'm sharing it and having fun with my audiences. And I mean, they come out to see me in theatres, and so it's nice that I've done something to. It's Britain's Got Talent. That's the reason why people come to the theatres, because of that title, you know. And so I've got that in the past, which is nice. But I'm trying to reach new audiences all the time, so you can follows me on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page, Twitter, and my website, The Steve Hewlett Show. If you follow all that, you know what I'm up to now. You know when my new DVDs are out, or the old ones. And then you'll find out when the book comes out, which is coming out next summer. I've got a year to finish it and get it published.
Well, definitely, we'll keep an eye. What we'll do is we'll pop the links, all your social medias and everything in the bio on YouTube so that people can get them easier. Because I know people don't like to search things. They like to just click and get it.
No.
So next question, Alex wants to know, how does someone start learning Vent? We're not looking for a full lesson.
Yeah, well, when I started, Ray Allen's book called Got a Gear was a great start for me. So I went to the local library, and there was other books as well. There's one called I Can See Your Lips Moving by Valentine Vox. That's one of the greatest books out there. So it was by books, I was very lucky I had a teacher in Jimmy Tamley, because not only did he teach me the technique and the basics of the ventriloquist, but I roadied for him for 10 years. So I got to learn how to work the stage in certain situations. If the lighting was bad or the stage was in the wrong area, then you wouldn't work that stage. You work part of the floor where the audience could see. I learned dynamics of the ventriloquist cabaret show, not just how to talk without moving my lips, So I can give you a very basic lesson on what I did with my hand is, if you use the hand in the mirror and then do the alphabet, you put your teeth together and your lips slightly open and start to say, hey, my name is Graham Taylor. Do that. Try that now, Graham. Teeth together.
There we go.
Lips open, otherwise you'll stop breathing. That's good. Yeah, there has to be a little gap. And then,
hey, my name is Graham Taylor.
That's great. It's a great start. Now, when I say teeth together, lips open, every ventriloquist has their own relaxed style, and everyone's got different shaped teeth, and so you have to make it as relaxed as you can. And the tongue does all the work behind the teeth to create the letter sounds. So you have to really work really hard on the letters, like the P's. When you do a P, I don't mean go to the toilet. When you do a P letter, you blow your tongue at the top of your mouth and you go. So the techniques, which my mate Jimmy taught me, it looks really silly, but if you want to master the art of ventriloquism, you have to put the work in.
I thought you all, definitely. So Stephen asks, what's the hardest thing about ventriloquism?
The hardest thing is the material, because again, researching the book, I've stumbled upon some ventriloquists these days that are doing things. Even Jeff Dunham, I've seen him do things that were done 60 years ago or even 100 years ago, and it's just an idea. And I think I've written an idea or come up with a routine, and then I've seen Paul Zerdin do it on TV. So we, as ventriloquists, we all think alike. So we're thinking of the next talking thing. It could be a little box or so. Let me out of the box. Doing a distant voice in the box. That was done 100 years ago. I thought I made that up just then. But you can come up with. I started to do a baby routine, and this baby routine. I'm always looking for props to show you. But I started a baby routine, which I opened with on my audition at Britain's Got Talent. And that baby routine came to me when I was 30, 15 years ago. I was at my 30th birthday at my sister's house. And she had a friend who had a baby in the other room, but we were all in the kitchen. Now, when they told me that, her baby's in the other room, I went, oh, that's sweet. Then I started going, I started to doing that. And the mum, the baby, ran into the other room. And so my sister said, you've got to put that in the act. So, here we go. So we have one of these on the bed, which is the like a warming blanket. It warms your bed, which you have in the winter. I ripped it off my bed when I got home that night, and I practiced with it and sort of put it into a baby routine. I went like that and folded it up, and I made it look like a baby in the act. And so this baby routine, when I done Britain's Got Talent, I was terrified when I done it because those judges terrified me. But I started when Simon Cowell said, let's see what you do. I started with that baby routine because it's a grabber, It grabs the audience, it makes them laugh, and visually it's brilliant. So I did that 15 years ago, but since writing my book and going back and studying other ventriloquists, I've seen it on old videos, like a German ventriloquist called George Slick. He'd done a similar thing with a jacket, you know. And then I went back about 25 years and saw Jeff Dunham does something similar to what I just did. And I'd never seen these before. I could say, hand on my heart, I try and be as original as possible. So like the mask routine where everybody started doing that. I never wanted to do it, but because it was so popular, everyone in cruise ships and theatres, they were asking if I do that routine. So I was almost forced into doing it in the end. But it is a brilliant routine. I've always wanted to do it, but I thought, no, everyone does it, so I want to be different. But I did it because it was a request at the end of the day, and I was turning down work, like corporate gigs, because I didn't do the mask. So I'd say, no, Paul Zerding does it, book him. Then I thought, hang on a minute, I could have earned some money for my family. So in the end, I took it on really as a business. So if it was requested, I had it in the act. And it's only a 10, 12-minute spot, but it's a really good filler. I went to America after I'd done Britain's Got Talent. I went to America because a lot of doors opened for me. Yep. And the Osmonds got in contact. Jimmy Osmond phoned me and asked if I would tour with him. So we toured the UK.
As you do, because that's a normal thing that happens.
Oh, I said no at first. I didn't. And so we toured the UK one Christmas, and then I went into America for 5 weeks to do that. And then 2017, I went back, done 7 weeks in the States, a week in Canada at the Niagara Falls Casino, all with Jimmy Osmond and his band. It was just incredible. But Jimmy asked me if I would do the mask, and I said, I don't have any masks. But he had 2 masks, because Jimmy Osmond had done the mask routine in his act, but he'd never actually done ventriloquism. So he asked me if I would teach him. So I was backstage in America teaching Jimmy Osmond ventriloquism in the dressing room, which is an accolade I really should talk about more, because he is a legendary variety singer. You know, he's been in the West End. He's done loads of musicals, and I admire Jimmy Osmond so much. He's such a great business mind. It's so sad. He had a horrible stroke a couple of years ago during his pantomime in Birmingham. And so, yeah, so we're always sending love over to Jimmy and hope he recovers, you know. But he was a great boss. He was really, really good to me. And do you know what? I do like talking, Graham, and I probably only remember the question. So,
you have answered the question. It's what's the hardest thing about Vent was the question. So you answered that.
Yes. So I'll get back to that initial question. It's writing material that's not been done before, or writing the right material for the right audience. It's difficult because I work on Disney cruise ships, which is families all over the world. And then I can work on Saga cruises. The last cruise I did was in February this year, 2020. And it was on Saga cruises, which is like 50 years and up. Well, it's not. It's like 80 years and up, really.
Yeah.
But the material has to be right for those audiences. I can't do the Saga material really for the families on Disney, because some of it doesn't scan, you know. So yeah, the hardest thing really is coming up with a new character that's not been done before, or a new routine.
Yeah, no, definitely. The Saga holidays are the holidays my grand's never old enough for. No matter what age she turns, she's never old enough for the Saga holidays. I'm like, Gran, you technically are. Right, yeah. So Jordan wants to know, is there a puppet you get asked for more, and how do you choose which puppets you take to gigs?
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of different ones that I've actually not used for a while. So I've got so Arthur Lager is the one that everyone asks to see. So if I get a booking and an agent or someone who just booked me privately, I said like a birthday party or something, they say, please bring Arthur Lager. I get that a lot, more than any other. So I got Pongo the Skunk, who's my wife's favorite. Some people ask for him. Chi-Chi is a little character doing. Sometimes I do birthday messages, and we're starting a little Chi-Chi package for children's parties soon. The blue dog that's behind you is little Chi-Chi, and people love Chi-Chi, and some adults do as well, but he's a kid's favourite in my show. So so if I'm doing Butlins, I probably put Pongo in, Arthur Lager and Chi-Chi, and that's a proper 45-minute show, you know, and I do a lot of ventriloquist gags as well. But yeah, you do cater for that certain audience. But when I do theatres, I do 2 halves. So I do 1 hour, and then the second half is about 1 hour as well. So I do 2 hours on my own. But I've got a dummy with a guitar called Rod Vegas. So he does about 10 minutes. Arthur Lager will come back and do another 10 minutes at the end, because he always starts the show and then I finish with him. Pongo has got a little friend called Tiny Tina, so I would do 2 characters at the same time. I'm in the middle of rewriting that whole act, which I've been doing for 20 years. So I'm rewriting that because I want to come back with a fresh show when I go out at the end of this month. And then, yeah, so I cater for that audience, you know. You choose the characters that you know they love, as long as you can change the material now and again. But there's certain things that people do want to keep seeing. It's a certain song or a routine that people love. They say, I love it when you did that joke, which is like when a singer goes out and does a song, you know, from the West End, that they want you to sing a Les Mis song or a Celine Dion classic. Whereas sometimes they say, oh, please do Chi-Chi and do that joke that you do with Chi-Chi. They are favourites with comedy as well. It's quite nice to have the choice, you know. If you've got people requesting stuff, it means you're doing something right because you've got a little fan base there.
That's it, 100%. Yeah, I can understand that. So moving on or moving backwards, should I say, we now have some questions about your experience on BGT. So we did get, most of the questions did come because obviously that's what you're known as a ventriloquist, but you're obviously known from Britain's Got Talent all those years ago. So Claire wants to know, what do you remember from your audition for Britain's Got Talent?
I was terrified because you're stuck backstage all day and they keep you there all day. And I was one of the last acts that they used in the night. So you're there from like 9 a.m. in the morning, and they're filming you, that you're doing interviews, or you're sat in the waiting room waiting to go on. You're sat there talking to all the other acts. The excitement is building, but during that day, people are recording their auditions and you can hear big cheers, round of applause, people screaming, and buzzes. There are buzzes that go off during the day. So you're thinking, how is my act going to pan out on that night? You know, are they going to buzz me? Are they going to boo me? Are the judges going to hate what I'm about to do? So yeah, I'm completely nervous. I was a nervous wreck because I didn't have anybody there for me either. I had no family or friends to hug at the end. And this is in the days when you could hug people. But I didn't
remember those days.
remember that, yeah. And it was days when you could work the London Palladium with an audience full of people as well. That was incredible because I was working a theatre that I worked in the West End. Can I tell you that? I worked at the London Palladium as an usher, and I worked on stage door at the Palladium as well. And Oliver was on at the time. Jonathan Price and Sally Dexter, great musical. I got to know Oliver inside out, the musical, you know, Lionel Bart and Cameron McIntosh, all these people standing backstage, you know, back at the theatre when I was standing there. Sam Mendes, he was working on Oliver, and he's a massive movie producer now.
Massive now.
I used to stand at the back of the theatre, you know, and I was working. I sold ice creams in the aisles, and it's just an incredible moment. I mean, Princess Diana came to that show, and I was standing behind Princess Diana, and you see her big bouffant hair, beautiful princess, and William and Harry sat on either side of her, and then next to me was a security guard, you know. But we were, yeah, it was just incredible. So I worked at the Palladium, so I had a love for that theatre. Sometimes they would transfer me to like Her Majesty's, where Phantom was playing, and I would sell ice creams in that as well. But because I always wanted to be on the stage, I would be selling programs, and I would sing to the theme of the show, like Oliver. I would say, food, glorious ice cream, come and get your ice cream, you know, food, glorious ice cream, or programs. I would do something to do with the show, and I would sing it badly, like I did then. I would sing it, but trying to sell that program or ice cream to the audience. I had the audience in stitches. When the lights went down, they would start applauding me, and a lot of them would say, "You should be up there on that stage." And I'd always say, "I'd love to be," you know, because everyone that worked in the theatres, and even now, they're singers, dancers, actors, they're all out of work, waiting for their next audition. And I was a ventriloquist that had that. I was waiting for my next job. So I'd do a couple of jobs while I was working at the theatre. Jonathan Pryce, who was the star of that show, he was Fagin in Oliver. He found out I was a ventriloquist, and I was called to his dressing room number 1 at the Palladium. So I went backstage. I said, "I heard you would like to see me, sir." And he knew who I was because he knew I worked in the theatre. He said, "You never told me you was a ventriloquist." I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, my children have got a party coming up. Would you come and entertain around my house next week?" He went, "How much is it?" I went, "Oh," and I plucked something out because I hadn't worked properly because I was working at the Palladium and I was there day and night really for the 2 shows. So I said, £50 for half an hour. He went, "That's more than what I'm getting." So anyway, I did it. And I went to Jonathan's house, and there was, I think it was 6 or 7 children sat there, which is one of the hardest audiences to an entertainer to do a comedy. You know, if it was 30 kids, I could have done a proper show, but as an entertainer, you do what you're given, you know. I mean, there was 7 kids sat there, and I had to entertain them, but these 7 kids were more intelligent than I was. I just dolls. I weren't great at school, but I just did what I did. So every time I'd done a joke, they would question the joke, or they'd say, "Oh, you can't say that." They were talking to the puppet. They were going, so they weren't that intelligent, but they were saying so like that they were pulling apart my jokes really, which were silly little jokes that I did at kids' parties. But I got me 50 quid, and Jonathan, I saw him poking. He has like a 3-part house, you know, in London in Highgate. And so you walk up the stairs to the living room, and I saw Jonathan Pryce and one of his friends, just watching to see how it was going because they were laughing at places. So I would see them poke the head out. I better to try and make it look like I was going down a lot better than I was. So I just told the kids to laugh. But it was a great experience working the Palladium. So anyway, I'm digressing again.
You're fine. It's great to hear these stories.
I wanted to talk more West End for you because this
is
your
fine.
West End.
But we're talking about TV and film and everything as well, so don't worry.
Yeah, we're all as one. I mean, at the moment, we're all as one, you know, working together. And I filmed something last night for Acting for Others, which is a restaurant, Joe Allen restaurant in the West End. And everyone from the West End shows all come to see this, have their dinner after they do the shows. They book the table, and everybody from the West End knows what Joe Allen's restaurant is. Last night, I was on the premiere show. Le Foire is the host, a drag artist. And there was Derek Jacobi, Dame Patricia Hodge. She's not a dame, she should be. But all these actors and singers and dancers, and myself, I'd done something with Arthur Lager, and we were pretending we were at Joe Allen's having dinner. So I wrote this piece. If you get a chance to see that, have a little look online now because it's out there.
Definitely.
Joe Allen's restaurant. And they're raising money for the West End performers, everyone that's out of work, even the people behind the scenes, you know, that work in the crew rooms, the hard-working people. But anyway, so I'm at the Palladium, and so you said you want to get to know me, and you really get to know me. Yeah, I auditioned at the Palladium. It was just an incredible venue to do, but I remember being so nervous in front of them judges. But I told them I used to sell ice creams in the theatre. I was standing on stage. I've been trying to get on stage there for 17 years, and I've made it. But when I started doing that baby routine, I started to relax, you know, of complete laughter and applause, standing ovation right at the end of it. And I was elated, you know. I came off, I took a bow, and I was so relieved that it went well. It was brilliant. And when you go out into the wings, Ant and Dec greet you. So I had a little chat with them, and then I went out, and then they film you walking out the theatre. But usually when you watch Britain's Got Talent, you've got someone you love there to hug, to say well done, you know. But sadly, my wife was at home with our daughter. It was very difficult for her, and I wish I had a member of my family there, because when you know, when you get some bad news, or when something goes so well in your career, and this was a defining moment in my career as a ventriloquist. I've always wanted to get on telly and showcase what I do, you know, because ventriloquism is for television, you know. It's made. Oh, let me just tell you this. I'm digressing again. But the first image of a face was a ventriloquist dummy, and John Logie Baird. You can tell I'm writing a book. John Logie Baird actually used to one of his friends, Arthur Prince, back in the early 1900s. They were friends, you know. But John Logie Baird, I think it's in like the 1930s when television was invented. It was a ventriloquist head. So ventriloquism is made for television because it was the first image TV ever saw. Let me put that in your minds.
There we go. Yeah.
So we belong on television. So when I done Britain's Got Talent, I was just over the moon. And I went home. A couple of months later, you get your ideas together, and they want you to email all your ideas. So I had ideas for Pongo and Chi Chi for my live show. And they said, no, we really want to see Arthur Lager back again. So I rewrote some stuff for Arthur that fit with the show. And then I had the Simon Cowell puppet made up. So that was my comeback, you know, for the live shows. But when my audition went out, they only showed 20 seconds of that 6 minutes. And I thought, I'm really going to have to work for my place on this show, because they're not showing me. I had no build up to the show when I was on it. But even after I'd done my live show and I went down the Storm, you know, when I first brought out Simon Cowell, I was then pushed out of the show. Simon went to an audience vote, and the young girls all vote on these shows. So they went for the young singer, the good-looking Irish singer.
Jordan.
Yeah, so I proved myself again when I got to the final, because they didn't advertise me, because I was the wild card. The wild card was kept secret until the following Saturday, and I was working hard writing material and getting Sunita made up in 3 days. And then literally I had no publicity, so I wasn't in any magazines. I had no interviews in newspapers. So it was when the final was on, Anton Deck said the wild card is, then I came out. And then social media went crazy. My website crashed that night. My web designer lives in Australia, and he emailed me to say, what's going on? Your website's crashed. And so, and then something I never knew about was trending on Twitter. And my wife told me, she said, you're trending on Twitter. When Britain's Got Talent's on, it's all hashtag ventriloquisting, you know. And then I found out what trending on Twitter was. I was big news on that final, and then people still talk about that final as being one of the best finals, because the variety on it was truly incredible. And the winners of that show was Attraction, you know, which is a really big shadow act, and they were fantastic. Yeah.
They weren't British though, but I'll say nothing about that.
Well, technically then I was third and not fourth.
Yes, technically you were third, because we don't class Attraction because they weren't British. But that's my opinion. They were fantastic. Yes, I'm not taking away from the talent. But how somebody from another country can win Britain's Got Talent, I don't know. But anyway.
Well, Paul Zerdin done it over in America, didn't he? So.
Well, I'm not saying anything like that's different. That's America's Got Talent. That's their issue to fight.
I need to go to India. I need to take my puppets to India next and win India's Got Talent.
Or Portugal's Got Talent, or there's loads of them around the world now that you can go and.
There is. Well, a ventriloquist has won Sweden's Got Talent, and there's in India, ventriloquists have won in India, so it's very popular. The ventriloquist on the Got Talent franchise has made ventriloquism big again. You know, they say it's a dying art, but because of Simon Cowell, they're his shows. I thank Simon Cowell for bringing us back again. He made it huge, you know. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you're still one of the highest ranking vent acts in Britain's Got Talent history, aren't you? I'm not going to correct you because you're right.
I thought that.
Yes.
I thought that.
I'm the highest ranking wild card because wild cards is an act that gets in at the last minute in the final. So there was 10 acts in the final in 2013, and I was the 11th act. But usually I would, because I just come in at the last minute, I've had no publicity. You would be like 8th or 9th or 10th or even 11th. But I was 4th. I'm the highest ranking wild card in the history of Britain's Got Talent.
Wow.
So can I have that? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You can have that.
Appreciate it.
So far, obviously 2020 is still to go ahead. When that happens, we don't know.
Yeah, I got a few friends on it this year, and every year I have 2 or 3 friends that go for it and do really well on the show. So I've got there's a guy called John Courtney who I work with on ships. He's the one with the piano.
Oh, right, yeah.
Very funny, yeah. And a few friends were on it and didn't get through, sadly. But they're extremely talented. All the people that work on the ships that go on the show. Sometimes I think they think they're overqualified and they're too good for the show. You know, so some of them are. But you think they're going to get on it. I chose the right year to do it. I think it was the right time for me to do it. You know, I needed a big break, and I got it finally on that show, and I'm proud that I did do it. It was good fun.
No, definitely. It's one of the few finals I remember. I've watched them all. I love Britain's Got Talent, but it's one of the few ones that I do remember the final completely because, well, partly because of attraction and you, and there was, who was the girl?
Jack Carroll came second.
He did.
He's a brilliant young comic. Yeah, and he uses his disability a lot in the material, which is you know, it relaxes people into enjoying that comedy. You know, really, it's because you don't want to laugh at somebody who's got a disability, you know, but he draws attention to it, which helps the audience relax in a way, you know, and sort of the was it a Lost Voice guy who does that brilliantly as well. And it's not giving us the permission to laugh at them. It's giving the children permission to accept that everybody is the same, you know, which is an incredible.
No, it's fantastic.
What Britain's Got Talent does. They always have a message now, you know, they always have a message, a group of dancers or singers, which really is the essence of Britain's Got Talent. So it's really nice to have that. And also,
you say message, I say sob story.
There you go, sob story. But then if you want to say sob story, then I came second. Technically.
Well, yeah, there we go. You'll be winner by the end of this conversation. You'll have won it by the end of this.
I'm joking. No, those people in front of me deserved it. We all worked really hard on that final. Richard and Adam, fantastic classical singers. You know, they're good mates of mine now. They're brilliant. I love them. And their nan fell in love with Arthur Lager. So we all became friends on that show. You know, I love Jack. Jack Carroll's very funny. And still doing great in the comedy circuit, you know.
Yes, so,
yeah.
It's just, I think from that series, especially from the top 4, the winners are the only ones you don't hear about now so much.
Yes, sorry, you there? Sorry, I just cut out. Then what did you say then? Sorry.
As to say, from that series, certainly from the top 4, I think the winners are the only ones you don't really hear much about now.
Yeah,
that's. I think they did do. Was it America's Got Talent, the Champions, or Britain's Got Talent, the Champions? They did one of them.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
I can't remember which one they did because obviously there's been a mixture of people. The next question comes from Adam, and he wants to know, how did you find out that you were a wild card? So obviously you were kicked out on semi-final 5. You were by the deadlock vote, as X Factor would say. I don't know what they call it in Britain's Got Talent, but X Factor, it's deadlock.
It's just audience vote, isn't it? It went to audience vote.
Go back to the audience vote. So how did you find out you were a wild card?
Well, when you come out of Britain's Got Talent, the studios in Wembley, which is, I think they're closed down now. I think they're flats now, but that shows you how long ago it was. But when you come out of the studios, everyone goes to McDonald's. There's a McDonald's and a drive-through there. So, but I went in McDonald's with my family, took my wife and my mum and my friends that came to support me on that show, and they were really sad. They were like crying. They were sad that I didn't get through. But I was like, no, let's celebrate. Let's get McDonald's, right? There are other takeaways you can get, but we just went to McDonald's. But other fine eateries, because this is going out. So I bought everybody McDonald's, or maybe I didn't have the money. Maybe we all bought our own. And so I wanted to celebrate because what happened that night, I got my Saturday night primetime television exposure, and it's exactly what I wanted, you know. So I wasn't disappointed. Obviously, I wanted to be in the final, but people were saying, "Oh, there may be chance of a wild card," and so I just thought, okay, that I'm up against some good competition. They had some great acts that week, so I wasn't holding my breath. So the next day, which was the Sunday after the Saturday night, I went to the local garage to get a bottle of Prosecco. So I said to my wife, "Oh, let's celebrate anyway that I was on the show, and we'll sit back and we'll enjoy the final next week." So I'll get some Prosecco and we'll have a roast dinner. I walked to the garage, went to get Prosecco, took it to the till, and my debit card declined, right? So that brought me back down to earth. It's like, okay, right, I'm not only out of money, I'm not on the final. This is where it all goes downhill, right? But it was just a problem with the card. I had to run home. The funny thing was there was people behind me that recognized me. I heard them whispering, and I heard them say Britain's Got Talent because I was on it the night before. And they were whispering, first, Britain's Got Talent. And then they was whispering, his card's declined, you know, from the papers, loser. And so, but I ran home to get a credit card, excuse me, and then I came back to actually to pay for the goods. Then we went back. Actually, when I went back to get the bottle, I had a phone call from Britain's Got Talent. So I was back in that garage from being deflated so much from the card being declined. I picked up a bottle of Prosecco again. Then I had a phone call. So I was walking around that garage, talking to the producers of Britain's Got Talent, saying, "Steve, you may be the wild card. Can you get some material ready? And we won't know if you're wild card until Wednesday. Can you write another act? Can you get another puppet made up? Because we were all talking about the Simon Cowell puppet. Can you get another judge made up?" And I thought, well, it's going to be a bit predictive if I actually get another judge. So I said, what about Sunita? Why don't I get Sunita made up? They phoned me back. They said, we'll call you back in a few minutes. So I bought me Prosecco, started walking home. They called back and said, we love it. Love the idea. Can you do Sunita? I said, well, actually, I've said this, but I don't make puppets. I've got people that make them for me, and you need to give them 2 or 3 months to make a character, because they not only have to fit it in their schedule, it takes that to find the material for the puppets. You look at Sunita, she's got them big leaves, she's got the wig, she's got those eyes, the earrings, everything, her shoes, everything was made to look like Sunita. And my puppet designer, Peter Pullen, who's a genius, he made Orville, he made Dickie Mint for Ken Dodd, he made Emu, you know, Emu for Rod Hull.
Oh, Rod Hull, yeah.
That one there, he made him. Big fan of all of his work. But he made Sunita in 3 days, and he didn't sleep. He done that for me as a professional, helping out another professional. I owe my life to him. He's just been incredible. And since then, he's made my last 15 characters. He made Pongo, he made Sunita, he made Chi-Chi, and he made the new Arthalaga as well. So yeah, an aeroplane's going to land soon.
Yeah. Flying in it.
I know, yeah. So it was incredible to actually have that phone call. So I got that phone call. I phoned up the puppet maker. Can you make Sunita? He says, well, I'll try my best. And so I said, I might not be on the show. How much will the puppet cost? And he told me, and it was £2,000 for these puppets, you know. So I went back to them. I said, it's going to cost $2,000, but he can make it by Friday, by the rehearsal. And then, and they said, okay, can you tell him to go ahead? And then we'll try and find out if you're going to be the wild card. But they did say there's 5 wild cards up for the job. So I was like, oh, I'm going to get excited. I'm going to write the material for the show. And then on Wednesday, they said, you're going to get a phone call to tell you if you're wild card or not. So I was okay. So I started writing the material. Me and my wife started learning the song, which I put in the final, which was the Grease song. We go together, sha-la-la-ga, ding-dong. I could be in the West End with that voice. So what it is that we got it all together. And on Wednesday, they said, right, we're sending some cameramen around all 5 houses around the country to film all of your reactions. So I was sat there with Nina, terrified. Our little 1-year-old was sat in between us. And then I had a phone call. They said, when the phone rings, just answer it and we'll film you. So it was David Williams on the phone. Doesn't happen every day.
No.
Yeah, so David phoned, and then he told us, he said, Steve, we've got another 4 acts to talk to. So I'm thinking, oh my God, is he going to tell me, sorry, you haven't got through? I hate those moments. I hate watching them. But now I'm in that place of actually receiving. And so he said, Steve, I'm delighted to tell you, you are the wild card. And then I'm not an outgoing person. I'm an outgoing person, but I don't really show my emotions. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Quite a personal, private person when it comes to that. And is it Jack Daniels in there? I hope.
No, just Coke. Too early for that.
So I thought you were celebrating with me. So anyway, so I got that, but me and my wife just hugged, and you can see it on the promos. You know, that we squashed our little 1-year-old. We forgot she was there, but we were all hugging. We'd done a group hug, and then that was it. I was in the finals, and it was incredible. So getting that phone call actually was as nerve-wracking as the audition, and the day where you get through, where everybody has to go back, stand on the stage when they tell you that you've got through, that your heart is pumping through your chest, and then, but when you get through it, you're delighted, you know.
Definitely, you didn't have the smoothest journey on Britain's Got Talent. You had the roller coaster that everybody talks about. You literally had the roller coaster.
It was. It messes with your mind, you know. When you don't get through and don't get the final, it's really hard because you put 4 months. Everyone puts like 4 months of their life on hold. You have to cancel shows. I cancelled cruise ships and holiday parks to do the show. At least 2 or 3 weeks of work. So I lost a lot of money to do it. And when you win the show, even if you win the show, the final, even the winners don't get paid. They get paid eventually, the winners. But if you're second, third, or fourth, no one gets any money for doing this. You just get a lot of work from it, you know. So I knew that the phone was going to start ringing. I had a phone call on the Sunday after the final from Royal Global, the management of the company, saying, we've just got you a Panto. So they signed me a deal that day with Panto, and which I was already in talks with, but my new management got the money up, which is great. Yeah, and so then I got loads of corporate dates and stuff coming in, and loads of radio interviews, you know, Tony Blackburn, and it was just great for people to actually email me, because I'm always emailing them to try and get on their radio and plug something, you know, an upcoming tour. But when people come to you and you do something as big as that, it's huge.
Definitely. Andrew touches a bit on the final, and he wants to know, if you had a second chance at the final, would you do anything differently?
Oh, do you mean no? No, I wouldn't, because what I'd done at that time was right. It was perfect, you know. And I used the judges. You have to use the judges to get that recognition. I was very brave using Simon Cowell as a puppet, but you have to. The reason it's memorable is because of what I done. Sunita phoned me up the week after the show, and I went to her house for 5 times after that, and we filmed some stuff for YouTube. So I got some great friends from it, you know. And I've been around Sunita's house.
That's just. So is everybody. Everybody's been around Sunita's house. Don't you know that, Steve?
Well, I suppose it's not really that big, is it? Everyone's big. It's, you know, and the first time I went to Sunita, she said, "Oh, you just missed Simon." So Simon had been around a few hours before, and I'd love to have shook his hand, you know. And I did shake his hand at the show, you know, twice. Once I had my hand up the other Simon Cowell, not the real one. I had my hand up the puppet, and his promotional people asked me to wait there after I'd been on, because they wanted to get a picture of me with Simon Cowell with the puppet, and we did that. And he said I was very funny, which was nice of him. So the thing was, I won Simon over on that show twice. You know, I done it in the first one. He said that I went into this not looking forward to it. He wasn't looking for. He said I'm not a fan of ventriloquists. So I won him over in that first show. And the second time, when I done the final, he said, again, he wasn't looking forward to seeing my act. But when I done the Simon and Sunita, you watch his reaction. It's on YouTube. Watch his reaction when you actually see him laughing all the way through. And you can see he's delighted that I've got the Sunita puppet out, and he loved it. And I heard on that night, this is a scoop, I heard that night they all went back to Simon's house to have a party after the final, and they were watching my clip when I pulled out Sunita. They were watching it on loop over and over again. So you can have that scoop. I've never told that before.
Oh, that was good, something exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, that was something the management told me because he was at the party. And 9 months later, there was a baby. So,
Anyway, 2 more questions from the fans. Charlotte, nice and easy. Would you ever do Britain's Got Talent, the Champions?
They asked me to do it. Now, last year they asked me to do BGT, the Champions, and I was on a cruise ship, so I was walking in Italy, and I got the phone call, and I was so excited. Of course, I would do it because they're calling you a champion, and although I was because Stavros Flatley came fourth on their heat in 2010, and they went and done Champions, and then they went and came second. And Twist and Pulse didn't win the show, but they went on to win the Champions. But I had an act ready to do Champions. And so Jimmy Tamley, the ventriloquist that taught me, he went on Britain's Got Talent and he done the mask thing. And Simon ended up not wanting to join in, so it went a little bit pear-shaped. But Jimmy is a fantastic ventriloquist, and he done the mask thing. His audition was hilarious. So he was asked to do Champions. He was on standby. And so was Paul Zerdin, who wasn't on Britain's Got Talent. He was actually on America's Got Talent. But they asked him to do Britain's Got Talent, the Champions. So Paul got it instead of me. I've written an act, and I've written something brilliant for the show, which I can't do because I only write for that moment that I'm in, So I was ready to do BGT, the Champions. And we're hoping it's going to come back. It was going to come back this year, but it might come back.
It's supposed to be back this summer. It was supposed to be back this summer, but obviously, as a lot of things has done, Corona has thrown the spanner in the works for everything. But I think they will do it because it was one of the most watched ITV shows ever, the Champions series. I think it was. I think what they need to do is they do it live. I think they need to do at least the final live,
because the winners got out months before the show got out, so it's not the same impact, So I think to do that, and I love that live aspect, and the live votes, and then you not knowing what's going to happen. But once Twist and Pulse had won it, everyone in the industry knew they'd won it, and people that were in the studio were tweeting pictures of them and telling everyone who won it. So it's not the same, is it? It's a shame. I think it's a mistake they made, but I think they admit they made a mistake. And I think they're going to do it differently if they do ever do it again. And yes, I would go back and I would do it, and I'll be ready next time because I've got some great new material.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. And the last one is from Robert, and he touches a bit on your charity single. You have a single out with your good lady and Afalaga.
Yes. Well, do you know what, Graham? I've got 2 singles out now, and I'll tell you for why. Yes, they're all related. So because of the lockdown, I've been very creative online on my Steve Hewlett ventriloquist Facebook page. I've been doing a lot of interviews and things like this. And I've been doing loads of interviews with friends on their YouTube channels and Facebook Lives. And I also started to write a song with my wife. A friend of mine called Kevin Dean is a music producer, and he plays the guitar, all the guitars. He's got loads. And so I said, I need a song with Arthur. Let's write a song. So we started to play with the idea of 2 meters. He said, it's got to be 2 meters. And he said, 2 meter Rita. I went, oh, that's good. I said, Peter sounds funnier. Let's do 2 meter Peter. So he said, I'll write the music, you write the lyrics. So I wrote the lyrics. That night, I emailed them to him. He came back the next day, and he had the basis of a song, So in the lyrics, I wrote 2 meter Peter, 2 meter Peter, da 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 da. That's the words I kind of had to his music, So it started to come together. So it was. I mean, you feel free to play it on your show. I'll send it to you. and you can download it now. So 2 Meter Peter was released. We was on loads of radio shows, and it's basically about social distancing. You know, it's a funny song, a novelty song, and it will remind people when they go out. You know, if you're standing in the queue in Tesco's, they should play it there, because we talk about Tesco's and Asda, everyone's shopping, and all the shows that you're watching. I put references to Afterlife and Matt Lucas's Baked Potato. It's all very relevant for the time. But yesterday, which when this goes out, sorry, so I shouldn't have said yesterday, but there is, you know, we've just recently been allowed to go to pubs that just opened on the 4th of July, you know, so when they opened that on the 4th of July, we knew it's going to go down to 1 meter. So I went back to Rita and I said to Kevin Dean, we'll do 1 meter Rita. So last week I rewrote the lyrics. Now we've got 1 meter Rita, but we've updated all of the news. We talk about Matt Hancock's slides. We talk about going to the beach and things you're not allowed to do, wearing masks. So we've updated the song. But we are allowed
to wear masks. Let's just make that clear. We have to wear masks.
You have to wear masks.
The way you said that, the things we're not allowed to do, wear masks.
Yes.
Just make it clear.
Yes, you got to go along with the rules, you know, do what we're told. But it's a novelty song again, but the music is better, the lyrics are better. And this next one, 1 meter Rita, and I'd love for you to play it at the end of the show. But it's just a brilliant, it's a pick-me-up song, you know. It's not making light of the situation because people were suffering, but it does lift your spirits. It's a bit of spirit lifter, basically. You know. So it's good fun. So I mean, you can get it on iTunes. You can get 2 Meter Peter on iTunes, Deezer, Spotify, on Amazon Music, Google Music, and 1 meter Rita's just been released over this weekend. So that by the time hopefully this goes out, you can get all that on iTunes as well. But you can get it on Amazon Music today if you want to listen to the whole song. So it's a bit of fun, and it's nice to actually have something to look back on. Because my kids are in the video, we made a little video, a dance video, put the kids in it in the garden, and it's something that I worked with on my, with my wife. It's something nice to actually say that me and my wife did this, you know.
Yeah, you've got something constructive from the lockdown.
Yeah, it's lockdown tales, you know. Or I've got a whole folder of scripts that I've written during this time. I call it my COVID creations, and it's literally scripts of interviews I've done and songs that we've written and just I've built up quite a big file of work during this time. I'm just keeping that in a separate folder to say that's what I did in that time. You know, I'd sit down and do nothing. I entertained my fans that wanted to be entertained on Facebook, and we've put songs out there which is quite novel. People are loving the song, and it's an earworm. It gets in your head. 2 Meter Peter, 2 Meter Peter. Well, that's Arthur Larker singing it. Do you want to see Arthur quickly?
Oh, and you go, bring him out. Bring him out.
You're trying to sing my song. I was trying to sing your song. It's not.
Hello, Arthur.
How are you? All right?
I'm good. Yourself?
I've got to tidy up his eyebrows. He's not having trimmed. I not had a haircut.
I know.
2 Meter Peter, 2 Meter Peter. Listen and he will save your life. Yes, that's it. It's brilliant. It's an earworm. It gets in that ear, and that's what you'll hear now all week. So hopefully.
2 Meter Peter, 2 Meter Peter. Right? Yeah, it's catchy, isn't it? You're a good singer, Arthur.
Catchy or annoying.
well, catchy and annoying. There's a fine line, I think, Arthur.
Yeah, I know. Did you ask me a question, Graham? I didn't hear it.
I said there's a fine line between catchy and annoying.
No, not that. Before that.
What about before that?
Did you ask me a question before that? So his hearing's not great. Just ignore him. His earring's not great. I don't wear earrings. Oh, shush. Right, so how are you?
Good, thank you. Sorry, I love vent. I'm sorry, I got a laugh at everything.
You got vent, do you? As long as you've got some air conditioning going on. Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely air conditioning. Biggest fans here.
Nice to see you. Good to meet you.
Yes.
You too. Bye. It's a nice shirt you got there.
Oh, thank you.
You wear that in Tesco's to get scanned.
Well, you could, yes.
Yeah, barcode. Cheeky, isn't he? Sorry. I
No,
shouldn't
it's
have brought
okay.
him out. I told you it would be
Oh,
chaotic.
you've got a beach ball in yours.
Oh, yeah, this is my Sunner outfit. Sunner beach balls and Sunner stripes, like yours.
Yes. This
Yeah.
is only a summer shirt. You wouldn't wear this at Christmas.
Oh, it's nice, isn't it? You got to wear the tat that people buy you, ain't you?
Aye.
Yeah. Otherwise they get upset, don't they? Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Do, yes.
I can't get a word in here. Oh, shut it. Yeah. No one wants to talk to you. You should have got me earlier, eh? You should have got me earlier on the show. I'm a lot funnier. Chucky's coming.
A lot funnier, yes. You're definitely a lot funnier.
Chucky. He's naughty. It's very difficult to control, Graham. So
I can see that, yes, I can see that. Well, you get looked at, yeah. Can't get the staff these days, Arthur, can't you know?
no, I'm trying to. I'm trying to downgrade.
Need to upgrade. Somebody better.
I need to yeah. There is no one better.
Not at all, Steve, I agree with that.
Nice answer. Cheers.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Absolutely brilliant. I've kind of lost track of completely where we were there, but that doesn't matter. Which is great.
You were going to sing a song.
Oh, I'm not saying you don't want me to sing.
Oh, okay.
If you think Steve's a bad singer, then you've not heard me. Like, Steve has nothing on me.
He is. He is.
He's a lot better than I am, I can assure you. I'm not terrible.
Arthur sounds better than I do. Thank you. That's all right, mate. He sounds better than I do when he sings. I'm not a singer. I'm tone deaf, I think. But Arthur Lager actually does sound quite good, actually. Sometimes, he's got a few songs in the show now. He's got a song called "Helping Hand." A friend of ours called Dominic Halpin wrote that, and Arthur sings that at the end of our shows, and so it's a good song. So so we should put that in the charts next.
Yeah, again, let's just keep releasing music. Arthur Lager Christmas number 1.
Yeah, that's what we need. Christmas song. We need a new Christmas song, don't we?
New Christmas song. If Lad Baby can do it for charity, Arthur Lager can do it for charity.
There you go. We should do it, shouldn't we? We'll do it.
Get it done. Get the Arthur Lager Christmas number 1 this year.
You heard it here first. West End Talks. West End Sings.
Well, West End Sings, aye. No, that's great. No, that's a good idea. That's end of year in the high, because certainly 2020 has not been high.
Bit of a write-off, isn't it, this year?
This year's just been a complete write-off.
We've lost a few friends as well. I'm in the Grand Order of Water Rats, which this emblem, it's a little rat, it's a showbiz charity I'm part of. And we've lost some really key people, Last year, King Rat was Nicholas Parsons, and sadly we lost him. And so we've lost a few of them, Roy Hudd as well, and Ken Joy. They're great water rats, and that they've been in this business. They worked in the West End, all of them doing plays and musicals, and our heart goes out to anyone that's lost anybody during these times. It's awful.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so let's get this year over with. Let's start with a Christmas number 1, and we'll start again with 2021.
We'll start, the decade starts afresh in January.
Yes. Do it. Can't wait.
Yes, can't wait for January. What was it saying? I see it going about Twitter and things. Your mum would always say, "I'll slap you into next year." I phoned her yesterday and asked if that was still available. I've got the jokes too.
That's a good idea, that.
I'm like,
well delivered.
Years ago, I would have hated that years ago, but right now, I could tape with that, definitely.
It's good. Keep that in. It's good.
I like that one.
Hang on,
so moving on.
That down. What are you doing? I'm writing it down. There you go. That's in. It's in the show.
That's copyrighted, Arthur. I'd like credit for it.
Oh, delete.
Not at all. You can have it. My treat to you.
Thanks.
You can have it. Because it's not mine. I got it for Twitter.
All right, you can keep the shirt.
Sorry, I'm keeping the shirt. Don't worry.
Good.
It looks better than the beach ball.
I used to like you. See ya. Always gone. He just run out of the room. Sorry about that. Yeah. No, he gets a bit out of control, that one. Sorry about that.
I loved it. Oh, I love it. Anyway, this is the best interview I've had. I can say that safely. Arthur's hilarious. Anyway, so you, Steve. But
he's nothing without me, if you think about it.
Well, that's very true. Yes. Very, very true. But then,
vice versa.
I was about to say it could be vice versa too, yeah. Right, so move on. That's the fans' questions over with. So we'll do a West End tradition, a West End talks tradition, should I say? Sorry, which is the not so quick fire round.
Okay.
Normally,
Sorry, just quickly. Are you saying that was a quick fire round? Did you hear my answers?
No. This was the quick fire round. This is the coming up.
Oh, this is.
This is now the quick fire round.
Okay, well, I'll do my best. You've heard my answers.
It used to be called quick fire, but we changed it to the not so quick fire round.
Oh, okay.
Because people don't answer quick fire because nobody ever answered quickly. So we've changed the name.
I love a challenge, so I'm going to try and just answer you really quickly because
that's
a challenge for me because I talk forever. So my wife's made lunch, so I need to.
She'll be shouting you next. Anyway, 4 questions and 1 activity, and then that's us. We've changed them slightly. Normally it's dream roles and stuff, but obviously you're not on the West End, so that would be irrelevant. So the first question in this is, what's your favourite one-liner?
Favourite one-liner? Oh, gee, this is supposed to be quick fire, and now
this is why we changed it to not so quick fire.
Yeah, it really got difficult. Can I just tell you one story? It's a very quick. I'll make it a quick story that I heard in a comedy club. I heard this on a cruise ship, and a comedian called Mark Walker told me this. And this is the best in a comedy club that I've ever heard. I'm going to tell you the story because apparently it really happened as well. So, do you know Michael Douglas, the film actor?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Michael Douglas, he's got a famous father, Kirk, and all famous actors. But Michael Douglas's brother is, and Kirk Douglas was in Spartacus, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
I'm Spartacus. No,
I'm Spartacus.
Yes. So anyway, now I'm going to tell you what actually happened. So, and I should have got his name. I'm not sure of his name. Michael Douglas's brother is a stand-up comic working in New York in the Comedy Store. And so he's doing his set, and it's not going so well. There's a few drunks in. They all shout, "Get off, you're rubbish!" And then he got annoyed by this. So the comic stopped, and he said, "Excuse me, do you know who I am? I'm Kirk Douglas's son." And then somebody at the back of the room stood up and said, "No, I'm Kirk Douglas's son." And then somebody else stood up and said, "No, I'm." But about 10 to 15 of the audience members stood up and done the same thing because it just got funnier and funnier the more people stood up. And it was that Spartacus line. Now, I don't think any joke really beats that story. I love it.
I know, that's a good one. Definitely. What is the hardest thing to say in Vent? As a ventriloquist, what's the hardest thing to say?
Peter Polycarpou.
Because that's something
he's an actor, but his name is because it's got all the P's in it, It's very difficult. Are you asking me to do it? Okay, hang on. This is a quick fire round. Well, what's the lips? Peter Polycarpou. Peter Polycarpou. Supercanosatulus expianodosus. Peter Pecker Tickle Tatus. Peter Pecker Tickle Tatus. Where's the Tatus? Peter Tartar ticked. The P words are very difficult. How does that sound where you are?
You got away with it. That was great.
Got away with it. I spent my whole 30 years getting away with it.
So the next question is, if you could turn one celebrity into a puppet, who would you like to do?
Oh, I think Ricky Gervais, because I think I'll get away with a lot more I'll be able to say a lot more because he seems to get away with in his comedy world. He gets away with a lot. I'm a big fan of Ricky Gervais, but I think I should get a puppet of him. I think
it would have to be an adult-only show for that one. I think.
Yes. I think
no kids available for the Ricky.
I'm planning to see him, and hopefully it's still going to happen in October at the London Palladium. So I'm planning to see him there, and it may be rescheduled. We don't know yet, but he's a great comedy mind. I really admire. I was actually watching him do one of his talks at home in the early lockdown, and I managed to get a question to him. It says, "Can you perform ventriloquism?" And he read it, and then he'd done some ventriloquism on camera because of my question. So I now tell people I taught Ricky Gervais ventriloquism. So I didn't. So this is what he did, though. He doesn't do ventriloquism, but he does this. And it's something similar to what Rob Brydon does, where he's called Man in a Box. and you just sort of blow, and then you just try and again you're using your tongue to do the words. Yeah. So I think the puppet would be Ricky Gervais, probably.
That's a good one. Last question. What's the top 5 places you've performed?
Top 5. I'm going to use number 5 would be the Britain's Got Talent stage. That was incredible. Number 4, I would say the Moon River Theatre in America with the Osmonds. That was an incredible venue. Number 3, I would say the Falls Casino, again with Jimmy Osmond in Canada at Niagara Falls. Just the venue, the audiences, they were just all fantastic. 4, I'm going to say the London Palladium. I've worked there 3 times now, and it's the greatest theatre in the world. But I think ultimately the 5th one will be the Royal Albert Hall in London when I supported Kenny G. There was 4,500 people there. It's my biggest audience to date. And I really feel sorry for the people from row 4 backwards because they couldn't even see my lips because the venue's so massive. But yeah, so those 5 venues are just incredible. The great stages and good memories in my career.
Fantastic. So the last thing today that we'll get you to do is, have you heard of the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Yes, I did it.
You did it? You've done it before? That's good to know.
I did it. It's on my YouTube channel, and actually my brother did it. I done it at a festival, Chris Evans Festival, and my brother threw the bucket of ice over me and Simon Cowell. So you can see that on my YouTube channel.
Oh, there we go. So we'll have a look at that. But we're not going to ask you to do it. Don't worry. The reason we mention it is obviously you did it and then you had to nominate somebody to do it next. So what we've come up with is the West End Talks nomination. So now that you've done this, we're going to ask you to nominate somebody. It can be anyone you want from theatre, film or TV in any way. So theatre doesn't have to be the West End. It can be obviously theatre like you do or whatever. Somebody you know, because the purpose of it is to get them to come in to do a chat. So it's somebody that you have a bit of kind of, not control, but leeway over, that you can try and help. You can nominate as many as you want, but minimum is 1.
Right. I would say Duncan Norvell. Do you know Duncan Norvell?
I know the name anyway, yes.
Yeah, one of the great variety impressionists. And if you Google Duncan, you'll see a lot of the TV shows that he used to do and the spots, and he was brilliant. And he's still brilliant today. And sadly, Duncan had a stroke, but it's not stopped him. His story of Duncan is just incredible, and he's still got the stories and the jokes, and he does impressions. He's such a lovely guy, and I admired him when I was growing up. And I met him on Blackpool Pier actually in '95. Then I worked with him in a TV show in 2004, and then we became Water Rat. So he's a brother Water Rat, but he's done so much in his career, you know. But he's a great television personality and very funny man. He's got a lot of stories he could tell. So I challenge Duncan Norvell.
As it's all that's left then is to, once you finish this chat, go onto Twitter and to put up on Twitter or just to say that you've done the chat with West End Talks. Now it's your turn and tag, if Duncan has Twitter, tag him in.
I think he does, yes.
We'll get him in that way. But that's us. You have survived, Steve. You've got through it. Thank you for joining us. All that's left for you guys at home to remember is the charity. We are here to try and raise some money for Acting for Others, who are supporting all of the arts industry, not just at the moment, but all year round to help. But obviously, especially at the moment with the theatres all closed and TV and everything all stopped. So please, anything you can, donate. The link's in the bio below. It will be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Yeah, down there, Steve. Yeah, well done. And join us next time when we will have Danny Becker, who has just done a lockdown version of Last 5 Years. He was in Aladdin in the West End, and he's currently in Prince of Egypt, the musical.
Wow.
So join us then when we have him. But thank you very much, Steve. It has been a genuine honour getting to know you and some of the puppets that you've worked with over the years. So thank you very much. But guys, take care. Bye now.
Thanks.
Listen and he will save your life. 2 Meter Peter.